So we talked a little bit about the importance and the power of knowing different perspectives last week. We talked about the debates between Shammai and Hillel, and how Shammai was, his opinion was oftentimes more respected than that of Hillel, because Shammai took the time to really understand the arguments of the other side. And that not only enriched his perspective, but helped strengthen his own argument and his own resolve as well. And today, before we dive in, I just want to talk about the value of arguments in Judaism. We talk about machloket, the disagreement, as sort of the fundamental nature of Jewish discourse, of Jewish study, and of Jewish debate. And it, we talk about the concept of being in a Beit Midrash, in a house of study, where you have two people coming from different sides, literally screaming at each other over avenues of Jewish law. And Pirkei Avot teaches us that there are two different types of arguments of that nature. There are the arguments that are l'shem shamayim, that those are for the sake of heaven, and those that are not. And I think the beautiful thing that you're going to find out between Dov and between our speaker last week is that we can disagree all the time, but what's important is that the disagreements that we have are l'shem shamayim, are for the sake of heaven, is that they come across in a respectful way, in a way where we really can listen to one another and respect the diversity of opinions in a way that strengthen both of our arguments, all sides of the coin, in a really meaningful and beautiful kind of way. And I think that's what we're doing here today. Once again, I just want to say that by having our speakers, we're not endorsing as an organization or as an institution one approach or the other, any particular political position with regards to the Israeli government and the Israeli elections. What we are providing is insight, is the opportunity to learn and to educate ourselves, so that if we find ourselves in one of these machlokets, right, if we find ourselves in one of these debates, we'll be more open, we'll have a better understanding of where it is that the other side, that the other position is coming from. And doing so will only enrich our ability to sort of really understand, shape, and come to an opinion ourselves of what's going on. So Dov is an incredibly successful attorney in Israel, works for one of the leading law firms. And in addition, it's worth mentioning that all three, that our presenter last week, Cantor Lieberman, and our presenter this week, all served in the army together in the same units. And what's amazing is that we talked about how army experiences can sort of shape our view and our opinion, especially in Israel, of the political system, but to serve together, to have similar types of experiences and walk away with very different political views should just tell you about, the amount of respect that we have for one another and people of different positions, but also how we can also look at the exact same situation and circumstances and come across with completely different views and different perspectives. So again, I want to thank you for being here. I know it's getting pretty late for you, and for taking the time and for being with us. Thank you to Cantor Lieberman for making this shidduch and this connection. And we really look forward to learning a lot from what you have to say.
Wow, thank you very much. That was a great introduction. Unfortunately, I agree with what you said, but in reality, in Israel, I don't know how it is in America, but in Israel, it's a bit complicated with the respect. So
yeah, so just one thing I forgot to say, housekeeping, and I apologize for interrupting that, but I'd rather do it now. But please mute yourselves. If everybody could please mute yourselves, just so we can give Dov the kavod he deserves. So please.
So as you said, I agree completely. There's a sentence by the Rambam that he says, the Shma ha'emet memisha amara, which means hear the truth from regardless who said it. If it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true. It doesn't matter who said it. What matters is what he said. So first of all, thank you very much. I want to say that I know in the picture I seem like an important person. I saw the picture Hanan sent to you. I'm not an important guy. I'm a completely regular, don't have any role. I'm a lawyer in a big law firm. That's true. But that's it. So the second thing, I'm a bit sick, so pardon me if I coughing a little bit. I have my tea, I have my water, I took my pills. So just gonna let you know. And well, third, I want to say before we start, thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much to Hanan. Hanan and me, we were not only in the same unit, we were in the same squad together in the army, and we two have a very deep connection together. Not only is he a great Chazan, he's your Chazan, right? Not only is he a great Chazan, he is a wonderful human being, really, really, really. So I think you should thank whoever you have to, whoever, God or whoever, for having Hanan, because he really is a special person. Okay, so my name is Dov. I was born in New Jersey, Teaneck. I made Aliyah when I was 8. I'm a lawyer, like I said. I have 2 children. One is Tomer, a boy, he's 5 years old, and Noam, a girl, she's 1 year old. And let's start. So I'm going to share a screen, and so you can see the presentation I made. Okay, can you see it? Thumbs up?
We can see it, Dov.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so politics, of course, that's the main topic. In order to talk politics, in Israeli politics, it's very important to have an historical background on the birth of Israel. Why is it so important to have a historical background? Because one of the main aspects in Israeli politics is the Israeli-Palestinian dispute, right? That, I mean, I guess I bet you guys hear about it all the time, and it's important to understand from the birth of Israel where it came from and all the aspects about the dispute. So we're going to start from the Ottoman Empire from 1881. Okay, first of all, facts. Facts are very important when we come to talk about politics. The population of Arabs in 1881 was 450,000, and Jews were 25,000. The first ascent, so that's called the Aliyah. Aliyah is the ascent from Jews, mostly from Europe. Came around 25,000 Jews came between 1882 and 1903. And Theodor Herzl died in 1904. One of the main things about Theodor Herzl's life was that he devoted his life so that the United Nations then, I don't think it was the United Nations then, I'm not sure, but that the United Nations would recognize Israel and recognize a place where the Jews had to live. And this is mainly because the Dreyfus, Mishpat Dreyfus, it's called, the Dreyfus lawsuit, whoever heard about it, and mainly anti-Semitism. That's basically what he felt, that why the Jewish people needed a homeland. And until 1914, there was already 48 Jewish settlements, between 60 and 85,000 Jews. This is in 1914. And after that, there was World War I, 1918, and the British conquer Israel, and that's the end of the Ottoman Empire. So first of all, what do we have here? We have here residents that live in Israel, Arabs and Jews. We don't have any state. There was never a state in Israel, a Palestinian state, or a government, or institutions. There are residents, and that's going to be very important and for the future. And besides that, Israel was not such a good place to live. All Israel was full of swamps. All Israel was full of waters, and there wasn't any agriculture. There wasn't anything here actually. And when the Jews came, they started to really build up Israel. And soon I will show you what happens in the British Empire, which is very important, because the British Empire basically is the start of the Jewish state in the British Empire's time. Okay, so 1936 to 1939, the population of Jews doubled. It was 175,000 Jews in 1931, and in 1939 there were 460,000 Jews. Why was it doubled? Because in the 30s, who was in control in Germany? Hitler started to came to be in control, and the anti-Semitism then was unbearable. So already then, before the Holocaust, a lot of thousands and thousands of Jews came to Israel. And now I want to talk with you. I'm going to skip a little bit, and I'm going to talk with you about 3 plans that were brought to by the British, and trying to solve the Arab and Jewish dispute. So these were plans and proposals to try to bring a territorial agreement between the Arabs and the Jews. So, and one of them, we're going to talk about it later. I'm going to put a nice map, so it'll be easier for you guys to see. And one of them is called the Phil Committee Partition Plan. The second is the White Book, and the third is the UN Partition Plan. And 1947, 1948, Israel started to have active democratic institutions. I just put it in just because I think it's an important state of mind where Israel felt it was going, and the Jews actually had made Israel into prospered Israel into something very, very big. And we will talk about now all these plans, the Phil Committee Plan and the White Book Plan and the UN Partition Plan. And through that we can understand a little bit more about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and my beliefs about it. So this is the Phil Committee Partition Plan. This is 1937. You can see green is where the Arabs should be in charge. And I don't know what color that is. What is that? That's like, I don't know, peach. Orange peach is where the Jews are going to be. And the British are going to have Jerusalem in yellow. Just look how much territory that they gave the Arabs and they gave the Jews. Now, what did the Jews say? The Jews said yes. But the Arabs, they said no. And the White Book, which happened, when did that happen? I forgot. That happened in 1939, was another plan that the British, they wanted the White Book to happen. So basically the White Book said that there was no more Jews could come to Israel, which was a very, very devastating, devastating proposition for the Jews in Israel, because that meant no Jewish state. Because if you can't have Jews here, so there won't be any Jewish state. And also then, the Arabs said no. And each time they said no, not only did they say no, but they attacked us. These are facts. There was a Phil Committee. The Arabs said no, and the Jews said yes. You can look it up. If you don't believe me, you should look it up. And these are plain facts. And the third one is the partition plan, which happened in 1947, which said, as you can see, the Arab state will have the orange, where the orange is. The green is the Jewish, and the neutral is in Jerusalem. Also here, you can see that it's not like a 1967 border dispute. You see here that this is not a 1967 border dispute. Everybody talks about the 1967 border dispute, but this is a lot before the 1967 border dispute. And what happened here after the partition plan? The Jews said yes, and the Arabs said no. And what happened after that? Again, the Arabs tried to kill us. They declared war again on the Jews that lived in Israel. Okay. And now, what happened after that was the War of Independence, because they said no to the partition plan. Israel's Jews said yes, and the War of Independence started to happen. And the War of Independence is very important because we conquered territory through the war. So when people tell you that Israel came and just conquered territory from the other side, it's half true. It's not completely true, because we didn't just conquer. They attacked us. They tried to kill us, and we won the war. Thank God, because if we would have not won the war, we would not be here. And again, 1995, 1993, Oslo Accords. And what happened? What was it, Oslo? Oslo by Rabin, Zichrono Levracha. Rabin was Prime Minister of Israel, and he presented the Oslo Accords, which gave autonomy to the Palestinians. One, it gave guns, ammunition to the Palestinians. And third, it gave authority to the Palestinians. So it basically was a start. It was a start of not like of a Palestinian autonomy to try to so that they could live their own lives. But what did we get after the Oslo Accords? We got the Second Intifada. This is in 2000. We got the Second Intifada, which whoever knows the Second Intifada, I was in 8th grade. Every single day, there was a suicide bomb. Every single week, I don't know if tens, but every single week, so many Jews, so many Israelis got murdered. Women, children, and men in the Second Intifada was a really, really horrific era in the Jewish. I still have trauma from that time as a kid in the Second Intifada. And then 2005, the very famous Israeli disengagement from Gaza. We gave to the Palestinians the whole Gaza Strip, everything from the beginning until the end. We didn't get anything for it. We gave it, and it could be was good, not good, but the idea was giving it to them so they could develop autonomy again, trying to give them something so they could use and make Gaza into Singapore. But what did they do? In 2006 and 2007, Hamas takes over Gaza. Thousands of missiles, tens of terror tunnels. Do you know what a terror tunnel is? A terror tunnel is that a tunnel comes from Gaza underneath the ground and picks up in a kibbutz in Israel. Me and Hanan, we had to go to Operation Tzuk Eitan because these tunnels. So what am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to explain that a lot of people come and tell you, what's the problem of giving back territory? Just give back territory. Just give back territory and there'll be peace. But if you look at history, it doesn't bring peace. It just brings more terror. I and 95% of Israelis, I can guarantee you, are willing to give back territory for peace. We did it with Egypt and we did it with Jordan. we know how to do it, and we still and we are a peaceful country. But at the end of the day, you have to have a realistic mindset. Israel is very, very small. Giving back half of its territory and leaving it for just something to happen. We learned through blood, as I showed you now, and that's why you ask Israelis to give back for peace, they'll laugh at you because it's not true. I wish there was true, but it's not. There's no partner on the other side. This is in my opinion, of course. Okay, now, so this is what we talked about throughout history. There were constant attempts to destroy us way before the 67 borders. So this is for me not a 67 border dispute. This is a way before dispute. And every time we gave something back, we got back terrorism. And terrorism means people getting killed. And we are a life that believes in life and not death. And okay, so now, after we talked about that and my opinion on the Israeli-Palestinian dispute, which is one of the main things in the politics, the next thing I want to talk about is probably the main topic in Israel today. And well, before Rabbi, you're listening to me? I have a question. How many prime ministers is there in Israel?
How many prime ministers are there in Israel?
Yeah.
What a question. I would say one, but my guess is that that's a trick question. So I would say zero.
So the true answer is one. The true answer is one. You're right. But the joke is that there aren't one. There's 7 million prime ministers in Israel because there's 7 million citizens in Israel, and each citizen feels that he's the prime minister, including me, by the way. And so we are good Jews, and politics, of course, is something that each person thinks that they're right and they're only right. So
that's a great joke.
Okay, so
I might keep that in my back pocket for one of these days. I appreciate it.
No problem. Okay, so what is the main topic? I'll tell you, unfortunately, because I don't like it, but you have to admit it. It's BIBI, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's been anti-BIBI and pro-BIBI. It's divided the country, like split right down the middle, and a lot of people really, really love BIBI. And a lot of people really, really hate BIBI. And sometimes you can't even tell who's right and who's left because it just, BIBI is like so, either you love him so much or you hate him so much that you just don't even know if you're right or left. It doesn't matter. So, of course, I'm going to tell you my view about BIBI. Okay, I'll tell you already, I vote for BIBI. I always have. I will in the next elections, and I will explain to you, in my opinion, why I am going to vote for BIBI the next election. Okay, so two things I think each citizen is the most important for him. One is security, and the second is economic growth. I want to be safe in my house. And two, I want to feed my children. I want the ability to feed my children. If I don't have the ability to feed my children, I don't feel safe. I mean, so that there's no reason for me to live in a country where I live. So those two are, for me, are the main things. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're going to start with security. Okay, so I'm gonna read to you a quote, and then afterwards I'm gonna tell you who said the quote. This is the quote. If I have to choose between Benny Gantz, Yair Lapid, and Benjamin Netanyahu, Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid, if you don't know, They were two candidates against Benjamin Netanyahu for the past 4 elections. I definitely choose Netanyahu. He hates wars. He does not whip up wars. The last few months have proven it again. With the balance of only one proactive war in a dozen years of rule, right? Bibi is prime minister for approximately 12 years. We would not have another such prime minister with one war in 12 years. So yes, I choose Bibi. He is the only one that has prevented bloodshed. Who said this? And this is a quote. Gidon Levy. Do you guys know who Gidon Levy is? He is one of the most far left people, press people in Israel today. I'm talking about, if you think Haaretz is left, he is like the left of the left. And he said this about Benjamin Netanyahu. And I agree with him completely. And this is why I want to show you the way Bibi dealt. What he has in mind, he has a long-term, he has a strategy. He has a goal that he wants to get to in 10 years. And he'll do anything to get to that goal. And one of the goals is security for Israel and to build Israel's might and to make sure we're strong enough to defend ourselves. And now I'll show you why with data, why it's true. Let's start from the end. The year 2020 until August 2020, there were no terror casualties. For Americans, that sounds like, okay, just another regular year. What's the problem? No civilian casualties from terror. But for Israel, that has never been such a thing like that. Never in the whole history of Israel was there so little than the year 2020. And I'm going to remind you, Benjamin Netanyahu has been prime minister for the past 12 years. Now look at the graph here. Look at 2015 until 2019. And 2020, they haven't yet put in and out. This is the site. I took this from the Shabak site. You see at the right corner there, it's Magen Velo Yiraeh, defend and not be seen. I took it from their site. So this is official. This is official data. This is what I look at this and I say, this is what I need. There's a lot of bad things and a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of bad things that happen. And there's also a lot of things I disagree with Bibi. But at the end of the day, he manages to put aside all the voices and just puts a goal and gets to it. And this is one of the examples. Peace treaties. It is unbelievable that we have peace treaties with 4 Arab nations. It doesn't make it, I mean, if you would ask me or anybody in Israel 10 years ago, if I could take my Israeli passport and go to the United Arab Emirates, everybody would laugh at you. Morocco? Who would look at you in Morocco? And these are things, are peace treaties. Why did it happen? It didn't happen just because one day, I don't know, Trump became president. I agree that he helped. I said Trump, so I have to be careful saying Trump. I mean, he did have he did help the process, of course. But at the end of the day, this is a policy brought by Benjamin Netanyahu for the past decade, with and using a strategy mindset to bring these 4 countries to bringing peace with Israel. And it's not at the end of the list, by the way. There's going to be more. Economic growth. This is the second thing that I talked about. The first thing was security, and the second is economic growth. So Netanyahu was Minister of Finance in 2003, okay? and Netanyahu was prime minister. This is his second term, but from 2009 until now, he's been prime minister. So 2009, Netanyahu has been prime minister. And look at the data right here. This is the unemployment rate between 2000 and 2019. In 2003, there was 12% unemployment rate. And it was going to be a crisis. Everybody was talking about a big economic crisis for Israel. And Israel doesn't have, Germany to give money when they need, like they gave to Greece. Israel's alone. I mean, we do have America, but America doesn't give money to us for nothing. And look what happens in 2003. Since 2003 and 2009 as prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu has brought down the unemployment rate to less than 3%, approximately 3%. For me, that is something that is crucial for living. I cannot live if I can't provide bread for my family. So yes, there is a lot of things that I would do different, but if you look at the from above, you see that his policy, constant policy, putting a goal in the 10 more years and saying this is where I want to get, this is what brought him to being a prime minister. People, you have to understand, people voted for Bibi. He didn't just come from above, from the sky. Millions of people voted for him. And this is the growth rate in Israel relatively for the rest of the world. If you look at the data, it really is unbelievable. In 2008, if you remember, there was a world financial crisis. Israel was not affected by it. Look at Israel in the blue, as you can see, and look at all the rest of the world. Look what happens in 2000. Look what happens in the left side. You can see in the 2008. You see there's a slight detour. This is a slight. Forgot the word. Slight going down with the. You understand what I'm saying, right?
The decline.
So these two things. What?
Yeah, and I thought was the word you were looking for, like a decline, like a.
Yeah, decline. Thank you, Hanan. You always got my back. So there was a decline in 2008, but not for Israel. So these things are very, very important for me as a citizen, and as a human being, to security and to provide for my family. And the final thing, of course, is COVID-19. You probably hear it all around America, I think. Look at the vaccination percentage. This is not just BIBI calling up Pfizer's CEO and saying, hey, whatever your name is, please give me 1 million vaccinations next week. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, you need to pick a goal and go for it, and that's what BIBI does. That's what I feel that he does. And this is the end of my presentation. There's another big topic. I don't really have time. I didn't have time to talk about it, about the so-called corruption that also bothers a lot of people. I have a lot to say about that, but I think my time is up. So if you want to ask questions or whatever, I hope it was I hope you understood and you followed.
Can I insert a little note on translation?
Yeah.
I think we were confused by the Phil Commission. It's really the Elephant Commission. Peel, P-E-E-L-E in English.
Oh, the peel. Okay. I'm going to remember that joke for next time.
Good.
I would like to hear just a few of your thoughts about the corruption issues with BIBI.
Sure.
So, okay, so I'm going to be very short in the in that. So just think. What 2 out of 3 of his acquisition of 2 out of 3 of his I forgot the word again, and I'm a lawyer.
Accusations. You said it.
Accusations, right? Yeah, accusations is so-called bribery for what? For good good press coverage. Okay, so good press coverage. Now, you live in a democracy. You live in the biggest democracy in the world, and not the biggest. India is the biggest, but you live in a great democracy. You know that politicians and press talk together on a day-to-day basis, right? That's something that happens in politics. So I want to give you an example. Now, I try to be with me because I didn't prepare this. So try to be with me in this. So if let's say me and Maurice, we go buy milk from the store. Maurice comes and he goes on the right side of the cashier. He goes numbered, and I'm looking at him. I'm standing there, and I'm with Maurice. Maurice goes on the right side, day and Sunday. Maurice goes on the right side on Monday. Maurice goes on the right side on Tuesday, and then I come along, and then I come on the right side also on Wednesday. All of a sudden, the policeman comes over to me and tells me, "No, you're not allowed to go on the right side. Don't go on the right side. Come to me, you're going to jail." So my first reaction is going to be, wait. Maurice did it for 3 days in a row. He did it all the time. You were standing, police officer, you were standing right here. Every single day you were standing here. You saw him do it. Why didn't you take Maurice and then you had to take me? So before talking about the evidence, which I think is very, very poor evidence, it's just injustice that's happening because I feel that every single politician in Israel, and Israel is a very small country, everybody's friends with everybody here, and every single politician does it in Israel every single day, and it's so clear. But all of a sudden, BIBI does it, which I don't think he did because he got 0 coverage. But let's say he got some coverage. You come and interrogate BIBI. What about all the other? What about all the other 119 parliament Chavrei Knesset parliament members? Why don't you interrogate them? So I feel that it's something that's beyond corruption, and I feel that it's very unjust. This is just a small aspect of what I believe about the corruption. I hope I answered your question.
Other questions?
I mean, if nobody wants to ask, I'll ask away, but unless somebody wants to ask.
No, go ahead, Hannah.
So a lot of the case against BIBI is that in order to retain a democracy in Israel, we have to switch out power. He's been 12 years as our prime minister. In America, we have 2-term president for a reason, so that someone doesn't become a dictator or a tyrant. What do you have to say about someone who would say, well, doesn't it seem like BIBI's just he's been in power for too long, he's becoming a tyrant, he's becoming a dictator. We need to, it's a healthy thing to replace the prime minister every couple of years.
So that's a great question. First of all, really agree with the two-term thing you have in America. I think it's very good, but there's a big problem using it in Israel. And why? Because in Israel, the way the political system works in Israel, it's a stupid system, but that's how it works, is that you need 61 seats. So in order to get 61 seats, you have small parties. So you would have a party which have 5 seats that could tell the party which has 30 seats, you better do what I want to do, or else there's not going to have a coalition. Which that's also a big problem with the Haredim. If you can ask me about that afterwards. But so what would happen? Somebody with 5 seats would come to BIBI. Let's say he's finishing his second term. Somebody with 5 seats would come to BIBI and tell him, "Okay, BIBI, listen, this is your last term. If I decide to go away with the coalition, to break away from the coalition, you not only won't have a government, but you'll be finished. No more political future for you. That's all. You're done. Go write a book." And what's he gonna do, BIBI? He's gonna say, "Wait, don't do that. What do you want?" And then there's gonna be a big chance that these small parties will lischot, forgot the word again, will blackmail a prime minister, and the prime minister will have to give him whatever he wants because it's the end of his term. It's the end of his political time. So yes, I do agree with the 2 terms, but you have to change the whole system in order to make a 2-term in 2 terms in Israel. Besides that, I do not agree that he's a tyrant or a dictator, etc.
Question?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sam.
Shoshana.
Am I on?
Yes.
You are on.
Good. How soon is the 2-state solution idea going to disappear? I think it's inevitable it's going to disappear, but I'm revealing my own politics. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But what do you think?
Well, what I think about, I'll tell you, I'm a big realistic person. Okay, so on one hand, like I showed to you, we can't make peace with somebody that wants to destroy us. It just can't happen. On the other hand, you have 2.5 million Palestinians that live in big cities in Judea and Samaria. So what do? So, and this is why again I go with BIBI so much because look at these peace treaties, these Arab peace treaties. They basically said that Palestinians, you are important. We want to make a deal with you. We want to make a better life for both countries. But if you keep on choosing terror, if you keep on choosing missiles and terror tunnels, then even the Arab states are going to slowly go away. And that's what BIBI did. He had peace treaties with Arab states, even though that the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is still there. So the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has gone a lot down because even the Arab nations understand that not only will they profit from peace with Israel, but also that the Palestinians have to start changing their method and changing their state of mind. There's a saying, and it's like a little cliche, but I do believe in it. If the Palestinians put down their arms, there will be peace. If Israel puts down their arms, there won't be Israel. And that's all. I hope I answered your question.
Dov, I have two questions.
Yeah.
Do you think that those who govern the Palestinians, who represent the Palestinians, do you actually think that as government officials, they are representing the majority of Palestinians?
That's a very good question. You know who built my building that I live, my house? Palestinians. Palestinians came here and they built my house, and they were such nice people, really, really nice people. So of course, I'm not a racist. Nobody in Israel are racist. We don't have problems with the Palestinians. But at the end of the day, I want to live. You know, at the end of the day, I want to progress in life. I can't just say because the leaders of the Palestinians and the Palestinians, they're just tyrants and they're not doing what their people want them to do, which is true. I can't just say, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, not live, not innovate, not build my country. From throughout history, the Jews that came here, they built Israel into what it is today. It's not we got to where we are with two hands, and I wish that the people, that there was a true democracy in Palestinian Authority. And this is not talking about Hamas. Hamas is a whole different story. Hamas is a terrorist organization that has part of their constitution is to destroy Israel. They say it. They're not ashamed of it. They say it like that's their goal. So that's
Okay,
what I would say.
my other question, you touched on the Haredi movement. Can you address your feelings about the Haredi movement in terms of their impact on the government of Israel, which in turn is impacting the Israeli community as a whole?
So the Haredi community is you know, it's not only a problem, it's a tragedy, because they're, first of all, their political power is so much stronger than. So like I told Hanan before, the system, the stupid political system in Israel gives 5-seat parties tremendous power in deciding anything they want. So a Haredi party that has 5 seats, which is nothing, can come and tell BIBI, for example, because BIBI is always with the Haredi. And I'll tell you why he's always with the Haredi. The Haredi can come and tell you, I'll give you whatever you want, but I want money for the yeshivot. I want I don't know, every single aspect in the religious life in Israel where we decide about it. And the big party, what is he going to say? He's going to say no? Okay, so he says no, so there's no government. That's all. And why is BIBI always with the Haredim? That's something that's everybody has. I do not like the Haredi parties. But on the other hand, I know that the Haredi parties are going to be with BIBI. So how does it go together? Because there's so many not so many, but because there's the center left parties in Israel just boycott BIBI completely. They just say, I'm not sitting down with BIBI at all. So BIBI does not have a choice but to go to the Haredim. It's not that it's he has another choice. He doesn't have a choice. What is he supposed to do? So unfortunately, the Haredim, that their population has been growing, and their unemployment rate is, for men, is 50%, approximately 50%. And slowly, and of course, they don't go to the army. and the religious aspects. I don't know what I don't know what I am anymore, but I used to be a modern Orthodox. Now I'm just a modern. So I don't know what I am really, but it's very hard for me to. I don't like the religious ways that go on in Israel today. It really frustrates me, and I really hope one day they will stop with the boycotting of BIBI, so they could go under the coalition with BIBI, and they can really do a liberal religious life, not like it's going on now.
Thanks. Debbie?
I just had a question, what do you feel about the settlements in the territories, which are really, it's a big issue, both for the Palestinian population and really for the United States as well.
Right. So that, of course, you are correct. It is a big issue, especially for the American government, especially this government. Look, you saw the data. You saw my presentation. What did my presentation show you? My presentation, what did I try to show you? I tried to show you that the dispute is not on the 67 borders. That's what they'll tell you. That's what I feel that they'll tell you. But if you see the history of Israel, a lot before the 67 borders, the settlements, they were trying to kill us a lot before. You saw the maps. They didn't get the 67 borders. They were offered 90%, 85% of all Israel, and they said no. So it's not that the 67 borders, it's not that if there wasn't any settlements, there would be peace, because it's only one demands in a whole lot of demands which will make Israel not be a Jewish state. For example, bringing back hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to Haifa, to Tel Aviv. How is there going to be a Jewish state if there's not going to be a majority of Jews here? And like I said, I want to say it again. Israelis are for peace. If you would come and tell me that there would 100% be peace if you would give back some settlements, they would give back the settlements for peace. They would. But on the same time, you have to know, look what's going on in Syria and in Egypt and in Iraq and in Iran, all these revolutions. If I give back every a settlement now, the width of Israel is going to be around the George Washington Bridge. Can Israel defend itself with the width of a country with the width of George Washington Bridge? It's impossible, and we can't make a mistake like that. If we make a mistake like that, okay, so let's say there's going to be peace. We're going to give back all 67 through the 67 borders, and in 10 more years, they're going to be a revolution. Hamas is going to take over. Somebody else is going to take over, like they did in almost every single Arab nation in the world. And what are they going to do? They're going to send hundreds of thousands of missiles to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is going to be so close that it's going to be impossible to defend the borders of Israel. So yes, in one hand, I want to help the Palestinians. I want there to be an autonomy, but Israel has to keep itself they have to keep itself in a way that will allow them to protect themselves in the future.
David?
Yeah, my question is regarding BIBI's relationship with Donald Trump. here in the United States, the press here in this country made a big deal about, it was just last week that Joe Biden and BIBI talked. What's your take on the relationship between BIBI and Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and what does that hold for the future?
So I'm going to tell you, in the eyes of Israelis, and I'm not representing all Israelis, of course not, but I would say that I represent a big population of Israelis in Israel. They feel that Trump helped us very much in also the peace treaties, but also fighting against our biggest enemy, which is Iran. Now, like you said, BIBI and Trump together, they were very, very close, which is a good thing for Israel. So it's very important, and this is another thing why I think BIBI is so good in what he does, is that he understood. He's the first person that understood that if I want a U.S. president to be with me to support Israel, then it always goes by the American people. BIBI always says that. He always says that the public views in America are a lot more important than any president from the Democrats or president from the Republicans. So that's why, for example, you remember when Barack Obama was president, BIBI came and he talked against the Iran deal, if you remember. And he had talked against the Iran deal, even though that President Obama, the president of the United States of America, which is our biggest ally, was for the deal. And a lot of people criticized BIBI for doing that. But BIBI understood that if he would influence the public people of America, then it might also influence the president of the United States. So again, we need America to back us up, but at the end of the day, if Iran will have a nuclear missile, then it's going to be on Israel. Israel has to prevent it, regardless who president, if it's President Trump or President Biden or President whoever. So it's a tricky thing, and it's not easy, to be also loved by the Democrats and also be loved by the Republicans. And of course that BIBI has a better relationship with the Republicans, but I think relatively speaking, he does a good job on both parties.
Thank you, Dov. Thank you so much. And just trying to be mindful of everybody's time. Is there one last question? Anybody else have anything to ask? Okay. Well, Dov, if you want, I'll give you a few minutes for a closing statement, I guess, to try and talk, unless you feel like you put everything out there on the table already. But I just want to say thank you. And once again, you've given us so much to think about. And it's really great to hear so many different perspectives, a lot of really thought-provoking information in your presentation. And I think that all of us, regardless of how we feel, how we engage or interact with Israeli politics, have a better understanding from these last few weeks of the complexities that is Israeli political culture and the chaos that is Israeli politics. So Beth, remind us, when is the date of the third and final session?
March 21st.
So March 21st, which is right before the election. And it was timed that way on purpose. And we look forward to that session to have a little bit more of election analysis, as well as the opportunity to sort of process a lot of what we heard today and how those different viewpoints will sort of come into play in the upcoming election. So Dov, thank you so much. Once again, Kendra Lieberman, thank you so much for bringing us, Dov. Really such a beautiful presentation and clear presentation in terms of outlining your position and as a result, Israeli politics.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. Thank you all. I can't see you. Hopefully we will be able to meet in person sometime. But meanwhile, thank you very much. It's a great idea and really shows the connection between Jews around the world generally and specifically in America to Israel. So that also. Thank you.